Hello everyone. I'm Lydia, or also known as Charlie, and I'm the Anglican Queer, the writer here at the AQ blog. This is the first video I've ever done, and so I hope it goes well. I'm not entirely sure where to look or where to hold my hands or stuff like that. My hair looks terrible, but I think that everyone can pretty much identify with problems with eye contact and bad hair days. So just a little bit about me. I'm a Christian queer person from California originally, now living in Sydney, Australia. I moved here to be with my partner, who you all know as the atheist wife. Um, Not only did that mean flying tens of thousands of miles away from my home and family, it meant getting used to the fact that all the seasons are reversed. So while it's summer in America for my family, it's winter here for me, which explains why I've got a scarf and a jacket and a hat on while I'm indoors. It's cold in my house, and I don't have a heater downstairs, which is where I work. So that explains the wardrobe choice, at least. I live here in Sydney with my partner, who you all know as the atheist wife. Um, she is an atheist, and I do identify as a Christian. But surprisingly, there are few problems between us and our views. We have a very equitable relationship based mostly on conversation and trying to understand each other. And in reality, what actually works is that most of the time we're thinking the same things. We believe in the same things. Our ways of life are not different. The only difference is that I would say that my personal beliefs and actions stem from my study of Christ, and she would say that hers is because she's a human being. So that's enough about me. I hate talking about myself. Um, Today, I want to talk very briefly about an interesting topic that I read on the internet. I get emails from Patheos Christian blog, some of you may have heard about, and I'll link to it under the video. But they have a section called Unfundamentalist Christian Daily Digest. And I get daily emails that have articles that are written by scholars, Christians, and pastors, priests, whatever, who talk about fundamental Christianity from the aspect of not being fundamental. Uh, but it's definitely worth looking at. And again, I'll post links to both to Patheos' main blog and to Unfundamentalist Christian, as well as to the articles I'm about to sort of use as a basis for what I want to talk about, which is a broad topic of moral principles. I think this is important for me personally to talk about on this blog because, as you all know, I'm queer, I'm gay, and a Christian, and so a lot of people sort of wonder how that works. They seem to see the two as mutually exclusive. I don't at all, because moral principles of life apply no matter who you are and no matter where you are. And so, for me personally, I get my moral principles from Christ specifically. I study the Gospels, I study Christ's life, I study what people have said about Christ and what they think Christian doctrine and dogma, and aggregate it all into basically the question, if I do this, am I being Christ-like? That is my moral principle. The Bible is a contact for me. It is a source of trying to figure out what Christ would do. But it's not something that I take as a rule, because there is a difference between principles and rules. A rule is do no murder. Obviously, I wouldn't murder anyone in any context, because that is a rule for all contexts. A moral principle, however, while it is a guiding light, it changes from situation to situation. Part of the reason that it changes from situation to situation, at least in my estimation, is because the actors change, the time changes, and the necessities change. You may need to do something in one situation that you wouldn't do in another that seems similar. Part of this all goes into the main principle that I try to live by, which is the golden rule. Do unto others what you would have them do to you. And so what I might want someone to do to me in one situation would change if it was another situation. And so there's always this sort of re-examination of, well, how do I treat people and what do I want to do and what would I want them to do to me and what exactly would Christ want me to do to them? So I believe that that struggle of trying to figure out what to do is how you figure out what is your moral principle and what exactly you would do because of it. As that relates to me personally, it's a hard conversation to have because I am at once conflicted in myself about what I learned as a Christian growing up, what I learned as an Anglican growing up, and how I live now. They're radically different. In many ways, I feel much closer to God and to Christ, and like I'm living a better life now that I don't go to church, now that I don't identify completely as church-going Anglican, or now that I'm gay, which, again, many people think you can't be gay and Christian. You can. The moral principle still applies. So I have certain conflicts about that in my life, which I think is important to disclose. Because that moral principle still applies, no matter what has changed in my life from when I was growing up until now, there's a great consistency for me in my self-perception as a Christian. What I'm doing now as a Christian who happens to be gay is the same thing I would be doing if I was a Christian who wasn't gay, if I had ended up as a slightly different person. And so I think it's important to note as well that there is this consistency in being a Christian and in living a Christian life. And so no matter what happens in your life or in my life or in anyone else's life, no matter what changes, no matter what you're faced with, it's still going to matter. So in many respects, that is why I'm still a Christian, despite the fact that I have been told time and time and time again that I can't be, that I am somehow outside of being a Christian, outside of a group. Having said that, I just want to quickly wrap up this video, which I feel has been long and rambling and probably makes no sense. But I want to finish it up with a quote from an article that I was reading in the Unfundamentalist Christian. And there's a story that the article tells about this little girl and her family host an international student, and he happens to be an atheist, and they're Christian, and the little girl asks, well, he's not going to heaven, and she was worried and concerned in a way that little children sometimes are when they want everybody to be good and to be happy. And the mother's response to this was mind-blowing, not just for the kid who told the story as a grown-up, but for myself as well when I read this. And the quote is, "Christianity is not a club. It's not about who's in and who's out. It's about how we live." Most importantly, I think Christianity must depend on how we live. It's not a religion. Christianity is a way to live. You're a Christian if you're Anglican, if you're Roman Catholic, if you're a fundamentalist Christian, because Christianity is what we do day to day and how much we try to be like Christ, not how much we are. None of us can be perfect like Christ. And so I will leave you with that thought and get to writing a blog post for Monday, which is when I will not see you and when you will not see me. This will not be a video because I'm terrible at videos. Hopefully I get better because I would like to continue doing this. In the meantime, I hope you have all had a great weekend. I hope you're having a blessed Sunday if you're in America, and if you're in Australia like I am, I'm so sorry it's Monday.